Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George, and you're listening to our review of Edgar Wright's new film, Baby Driver. Yes! And we're here with the boys, Connors,
Hello,
Benny's.
Hey,
Dudes. It's here.
Yep.
It's been a long time since his last film. Ant-Man got canned. Baby Driver's here. What were you guys expecting going in? And overall impressions?
I went in with a bit of trepidation because this movie has been hyped from day one as the best thing since sliced bread. And I always worry about going into these kind of films because I think, is there any way they can live up to this, heightened expectation? The other thing that I was a bit worried about was they were really hyping up on the music. There was a lot of press about that. A lot of press saying, this is, the one quote that stuck with me was Edgar Wright uses, I think it was music the same way that we use air. And it's such a big claim. And I went into it expecting the kind of the marketer's demise, which is, oversell and underdeliver. But yeah, they did not underdeliver at all. This film came up to and exceeded every expectation I had about it.
Believe the hype.
I don't normally say it, but fucking believe the hype on this one. It
Believe.
is amazing.
Yeah, anyone who listened to our 50th episode, the best films of the year.
Yep.
Apparently I made some pretty bold claims in that.
We had a lot of beer that episode.
Absolutely.
I don't think you made bold claims, but you just made fraudulent claims.
No, I didn't.
You hadn't seen it.
We never said we had to say it.
Not this again.
What? I remember. No,
Anyways.
No. 5 favorite films. Nowhere to say I haven't seen it. So yeah, I listed Baby Driver as my number 1 favorite film of the year. Just a prediction. Just a bit of fun. We didn't sign any contracts. Wasn't trying to hurt any feelings.
And has that remained after seeing the film?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the only competition that it may have was the wild card Spider-Man, which I didn't really see coming in there. But my top 5 wasn't a list I was hugely passionate about anyway, so I was pretty confident to throw that in there. So I love Edgar Wright, and I was really looking forward to this. And what just an amazingly put together film this is.
I come from a bit of a music background, and any film that says music is a big part of the film, I am cautious. There's films like Whiplash where it just got it. And these kind of, when they're sandwiching in songs and doing this whole Guardians of the Galaxy thing that everyone seems to be doing with retro tracks, I was worried. And to compound that, I'm a big Edgar Wright fan, and I thought The World's End was crap. Compared to the rest of his stuff. In relative to his other stuff, it's a step down. Compared to Scott Pilgrim, Hot Fuzz, and Shaun of the Dead. Anyway, I'm happy to say this is one of my favorites this year, maybe even my favorite.
Wow.
It is just absolutely brilliant.
This movie uses music like the rest of us use air.
And look, I will qualify. When I say it succeeded, I'm not saying that they had a cool soundtrack, which they did, but that was what I was worried about. I was worried that when they said that, it was just going to be another way of saying they've got a cool soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think
the way that they
right.
used that soundtrack in the actual film,
it
was almost meta or almost like fourth wall breaking.
It's a character.
This is a musical, essentially. The music informs the action more than the other way around.
Yeah.
And all the tracks they chose were fantastic. Lots of cool hip hop, lots of older 70s, 80s classics.
Sick classic rock in there.
Yeah.
Look, part of me was really, really impressed with Edgar Wright, just on a technical scale, because having the action of that film informed by music like that is, you just have to plan out every scene. You'd have to have that soundtrack ready and done beforehand. And it created the same kind of effect that you get when you create music from scratch for film. So if you think about, the Lord of the Rings, when you listen to that soundtrack and the way that it informs a scene and complements a scene, that's because they watched that shit and created that shit for that scene. When you're using film or when you're using songs that were created 30 years ago, 40 years ago,
it can quickly back yourself into a corner. I feel.
So I was so impressed with how he navigated that.
It's rare to see on display, just to really be cognizant of the fact that, well, it would really take a special filmmaker to be able to just do this on a technical level. Like not every director out there could actually handle this kind of filmmaking, which is rare to see.
And I think Edgar Wright, everyone's kind of known, he's been known for his editing. I think that's a big, what would you call it, a hallmark or a trait of his?
Hallmark sounds good.
And I feel like this film kind of stepped back the editing a little bit, like in those rapid fire, Shaun of the Dead kind of style edits, and just got to sit on a few things. But in saying that, moving on to like some other technical things, I think the car chases in this were phenomenal. We all thoroughly enjoyed Fast and the Furious 8, but I mean, there's bits where it's like, this is so clearly green screen, and Vin Diesel's just sitting in front of a CG car shell,
but also a completely different film that tried to achieve different things.
Yeah, but I tell you what, when I'm just talking about shooting cars and without missiles and sentient cars and all this crap.
You love saying things aren't comparable, Connor.
What do you mean?
Like, you just can't compare that to that. He's talking about car chases in 2 movies about cars. I think you can compare that. No, okay.
I don't know, like it.
Anyway, let me just finish what I was going to say. Condor. But I watched an interview with him, and he said one of the things that we really strived to do during filming this film was make sure that the actors were in the car on the day when they were shooting those scenes, and not retroactively edit this in on the back, on the back lot, on a green screen set or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of the success of this film, and it dragged you in, and I was invested.
It's very noticeable as well. Like I couldn't pick a CGI shot in this film.
The car chase, like, as you said, the car chase scenes in this are spectacular.
So well choreographed.
Yeah.
And it's so well shot that you come out of this movie thinking Ansel Elgort is a really good driver because you can see him in there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And it's not like a boring car. Like, there's a lot of car chases out there that they go just a little bit too far. And what comes to mind are things like, I guess, Bourne Identity.
Yeah. The minis.
Or some of the Bourne films.
I don't think anyone's really pushed it since then. I mean, I think the Fast and Furious series has added more toppings on.
Yeah.
But in terms of something very different, I think this is the first time where I've seen a car chase scene where I've been like, wow, I'm feeling something. I'm tense. I'm emotionally invested.
And a car could probably actually do that. It's really interesting.
He does some really cool drifts and reverse. Like, there's one bit where he has to do a full-on 180 to get onto another bit of the highway, and it's just a I'm not explaining this very well, but just some very interesting way he drove the car that I really felt like he was an expert in that.
I always wonder, with a lot of car chase films, they go for effect rather than practicality, which is it's a reasonable thing. But when you see someone for no apparent reason twisting around in a street and then reversing at 80 kilometers an hour for no good reason, it may look cool, but part of me gets a little bit drawn out of it, and I felt like this didn't do any of that.
Yeah,
it
I agree.
Felt impressive, but at the same time also very practical. I think the only time that it looked a bit, and I still love the scene, or a little bit fantastical, was when he nixed the police spikes and took out another cop car with that, and that's in the trailer. But that was the only moment I was like, you know what, I'll let that slide. This is still very badass.
It was great. It's so well staged. The car felt like an extension of Baby's own body, like the way he moved it and everything. Yeah. So in saying it moved practically. Like
totally agree with that.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think another big success of this film, other than the music and the cars, was the casting. I think these guys, I mean, let's just talk about Ansel Elgort. I've never really been that into his stuff. I'm a fan now.
I mean, he's never disappointed me. I've never seen him in a film and been like, "You're what's letting this down."
But what has he been in? The whole
The Fault in Our
Stars,
the Hope
Carrie,
in Our Hearts.
The Hope in Our Fault.
Fault in Our Stars, Carrie. I think that's just about it.
I've erased Carrie from my mind.
Yeah, I mean, The Fault in Our Stars was. I mean, his acting was really good in that.
Yeah, but
he did a really good job.
For me, it's one of those depressing, sappy stories that I can't. I'm not into those kind of films.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so I might be prematurely.
Well, all right. Well, for what it is, he was really good in it.
Yeah, cool.
Both the stars in that were really good.
Yeah.
Stars, get it? But he's never really been high on my radar as someone that I would have it's certainly not someone I would have picked for this.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot was asked of him for this role necessarily, but I feel like he delivered, like over-delivered, like just really gave it a lot without maybe too much on the page.
Yeah.
I can't actually. He's got a very strange face. His profile is very. I can't actually picture his face. Like a lot of people, like I can mentally go, yes.
He's got a strange but alluring smile. It's probably like
he's got these little fish lips. Like he's got really puffy lips, but it's like really.
What is this? What have we come to? Just describing his face.
I don't know. He's just an interesting looking dude, and he's tall and skinny, and he's a different style of actor.
He's not too far off, buddy. Michael Cera's Scott Pilgrim.
Totally,
he's kind of another weird little Canadian-looking guy.
He just weird Canadian looking. Yeah, he does look Canadian, doesn't he? Canadian.
Yeah, look, I think he was really good in it, but in terms of if I'm thinking about performances, I'm thinking Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey was amazing in this.
As just like his character. I don't want to go into spoilers or anything, but his character was complex. Like, and I enjoy seeing characters that are not just straight good guys or bad guys, or that have a little bit of. I don't want to get too much into anything that could be spoilers, but yeah, he was really impressive.
Fittingly enough for this film, his dialogue was just lyrical.
Yeah,
like, all the way through. It just flowed amazingly, like part of a song.
Yeah, and
they capitalized on that.
I loved his relationship with Baby. I think that was a big strength of this film. Kevin Spacey, other than that cat movie, when does he really not deliver?
Yeah.
So I'm glad everything went smoothly with this one.
Jon Hamm.
Very against type in this, I thought.
For Jon Hamm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
just really cool.
Well, you know what? Let's not get into any spoilers, but
yeah,
his
character,
no, but just him playing like a sleazy bad guy sort of thing. He's normally a big El Suavo Superman guy.
Yeah,
it reminded me of there's this little British production that he did with Daniel Radcliffe called A Doctor's Notebook. It reminded me very much of that. He plays like this drug addicted doctor that kind of interplays with Daniel Radcliffe. So yeah, it very much reminded me of that kind of like sleazy side of him.
But yeah, I liked where his character went as well.
Yeah,
it was interesting for Jon Hamm, and I think it kind of subverted, as you said, the preconceived idea of having Jon Hamm in a film. It kind of subverted that.
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx, man, I've got to say, I was so freaking impressed with this guy. I continue to see Jamie Foxx in films, and
look, I've never seen him as again. He's never the guy that lets down a film,
except for in Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man.
Everything
Electro.
let that film down.
There was so much in that film.
He was so good in this. He was so good. I think my favorite performance of his yet.
Yeah. I mean, I love him as Django, of course, but I think this was something else.
I mean, we could basically go through the entire cast and say how good
the
everyone
love interest
was. Lily James,
yeah, she was great.
She's really fantastic.
Very like endearing character. I really like the love story between them. It goes in some interesting directions.
I liked how they avoided. I felt like when they started, Ben, you'll have to help me here. What is it called? Like Pixie pixie
Manic
character,
pixie dream girl.
Yeah. There was a moment where I was worried that that's kind of where this character was going to go.
She comes in singing and
with the headphones and stuff.
Yeah, they brought it back real quick, and thankfully, it was a really well developed character, not just a as you said, a manic dream pixie girl, whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah, certainly not overdeveloped though. This was a really simple kind of classic love story.
Yeah.
He comes in as kind of James Deany kind of style. So. Yeah, and just even setting it in a diner for part is just so perfect.
Yeah,
it's classic Americana. You know? Like not much needs to be said about that.
Is there anything else? I feel like we're kind of like walking on thin ice going without spoilers. Is there anything else that you guys want to mention before we get into that? Some final thoughts, something that we haven't touched on?
I mean, I just loved the heist scenes in this. I mean, that's a big component of this film is them performing the heists. And I was this feeling of exhilaration. I was so invested. I felt tense. I was on the edge of my seat. I just think it was just so well put together. And what Edgar Wright was trying to achieve, I think he checked all the boxes. I really don't have anything bad to say about this film.
Hell no.
I mean, if we're really pulling at straws, like you could maybe say there's a little bit of a minor, like just a bit where it lags for about 5 minutes in the middle. But I don't think that's true. I think I'm just pulling it out.
Shut up, whoever said that.
Yeah, so I 11 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. Look, ultimately, I really love the direction that this film goes in. I think that it subverts a lot of the kind of typical tropes of heist films, which makes it very interesting. They're not subverting it just for the sake of it. It really does add to the story. I don't want to get into too much before we without spoilers, but an absolutely fantastic film.
Completely agree. I don't want to overstate how great this film is. It's not gonna change your life. I think it's just a perfect little, amazingly put together technical achievement. Great little story, amazing performances.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack and the editing is all just like next level.
It's masterful, isn't it?
Yeah, Edgar Wright in his A game. This guy is going to do some amazing things before he's done, I think. It just felt like the perfect length. It never gave you too much. It's not bloated in any way. It was just such a tight little amazing movie.
Yeah.
Before we move on to spoilers, I did actually want to ask you guys one thing. Some of the criticism that has been levied against this film is that it is too quirky. Did you feel that at all? Nope. Or do you think that that's absurd? Maybe not absurd, but just...
Absurd, I say.
I don't think it's that quirky. Like, maybe it's not an atypical film, but in terms of, like, quirkiness, I don't think it's that quirky.
It's not Scott Pilgrim quirky.
No, not at all. I mean, it's different. It's different flavors, but as you said, Benny, it's not going to change your life as in show you something completely new. Yeah. It's just kind of refining and taking a few different elements, like a James Dean thing, a musical element, Edgar Wright's editing, combining it all and just making it a sweet little package.
Yeah.
Sweet little package.
Edgar Wright's sweet little package.
Let's move on to spoilers. If you haven't seen the film yet, pause.
Get out of
here.
Go
see it.
What are you doing?
Silly bunny.
Don't listen to us idiots anymore.
It's not out in Australia, so you're going to be pausing for a while.
You idiots, get in your time machine. Idiots.
And moving on to spoilers. One of the things I wanted to talk about straight off the bat, I thought it was so clever done by Edgar Wright, was the heist planning scene. If you have seen a heist film, you pretty much know how the scene is going to go. There's a couple ways that you can do that scene, which is you either plan the heist and then cut to the heist actually happening, or you do a planning session and then the heist happens. Like, those are your two options.
Oh, well, you do what Guy Ritchie did, which is like planning this in King Arthur, like planning and you seeing the execution simultaneously.
That's what I said the first time.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
The words that come out of your mouth just sound like...
This completely, and this is kind of what I mean by when he subverts a lot of the tropes of heist films. He didn't show any of the heist, like the heist planning was all blocked out. It was just a close up on Ansel's face, and you hearing, I guess, distant rumblings.
Yeah, but
which
then,
I thought was very
very
cool.
So. I think so. But then, like, Jamie Foxx's character is so suspect on the fact that this kid is not paying attention. He's got his earbuds in. Like, what the fuck is this kid doing?
He's not comfortable with the violence, which puts these criminals on edge.
Yeah, and then at the end, baby, what are we doing? And he rattles off the plan verbatim, and it was awesome. And it was a really good way. I completely agree with you. Completely subverted the conventional heist planning scene.
And I think he used it to maybe not explain, but to show other aspects that he felt were more important to the film. So as you mentioned, showing Jamie Foxx's character just staring at him is a really good way to use that time to develop character without, making it too obvious. The whole him repeating things verbatim was a really clever way of showing that, obviously he's got some kind of, he can lip read and there's just a little introduction to other things other than what I would call like the A-team heist section.
It's such an efficient storytelling method in film. I think we get bashed over the head with exposition and people saying, this is what kind of character I am. Instead of in that scene, nobody's saying anything but or doing it, like explaining themselves, but you understand the characters. You understand the relationship between them. You understand that Jamie Foxx got a problem. It was very, very economical storytelling.
The dynamics are all really clear, even for characters who are there for one scene, like Jon Bernthal, who I really liked in his very brief appearance.
He was intense, wasn't he?
Yeah. That's the second movie I've seen recently where he's had one scene and been really good.
Yeah.
What was the other?
Wind River, which is in my top 5. But you mentioned the heist scene where it's just kind of focused on him in the car. It doesn't show the heist at all.
I was talking about the heist planning, but you are right about that as well.
Which one was that? Was that the first one or the second one?
The first one. You see a couple really where it's just him in the car. The first one, which
that was so good.
But it really surprised me because I didn't realize that is inspired from an old Edgar Wright directed music video from the early 2000s, I believe, by Mint Royale, Noel Fielding, Julian Barrett, Nick Frost. This amazing little music video.
Oh, cool. The Mighty Spoosh Crew.
Yeah. Which I had not seen in many years. And I think I knew Edgar Wright directed that at some point, but had completely forgotten. I'm like, I know this. That first scene where he's just dancing in the car as this heist is going on off screen. So that was really cool to see him draw on his own.
I must go watch that.
Yeah, this movie feels just like inspired by that video.
Well, I read an article, and I'm not sure whether they were just kind of connecting dots or something, but they said that this movie was inspired by that. And I think that I'm trying to remember the article. It said something about the reason that they didn't want to cast Noel Fielding because he was just a bit too weird for the role.
Yeah. But it's funny how like a director, he's probably had that rattling in the back of his mind for 15 years and finally like getting to execute.
Maybe that's how Ant-Man was going to be. Yeah. The heist movie. It was just going to be Ant-Man in the car. No, it was going to be Michael Pena in the car.
Wow.
The whole heist would be off.
I hadn't even thought about that. I wonder if he'd really integrated some of his ideas for Ant-Man into this.
Yeah.
With the heist aspect.
I'm sure we're going to be seeing Ant-Man stuff for years.
Yeah.
He's going to make a movie about some random shrinking guy.
I love hearing about films that kind of are not based around just kind of one scene or one idea.
Yeah.
The one that comes to mind is Joss Whedon's Firefly or Serenity, the film, was very much based around one scene where River, behind her, the wall gets pulled out and it's just her standing there in all her badassery with, some weapons. And Joss Whedon was talking about he kind of had that in his mind when he was crafting this entire film.
And that was a jumping off point.
Yeah, it's really cool to understand the genesis of these types of films.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I think another cool part of this film was Jon Hamm. I think in the first half of this film, he was very much like the nice guy of the crew. And then towards the end, he was a bad guy.
He's an intimidating dude.
He turned into the bad guy.
You realize how big Jon Hamm is.
Yeah. The character dynamics in this were so expertly done. I mean, as you said, Jon Hamm starting out as this nice, kind man who, through very subtle acting, turns into a very sleazy, very dangerous man.
Yeah.
Is really spectacular.
And hard to take out. He took... Jeez.
I mean, Jamie Foxx, again, starts out as this really menacing, ends up, dead. Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, and he becomes the father figure in a lot of ways.
And, very strange and weird, like not strange in a bad way, but just this kind of, like, just kind of out of left field. You always sensed that there was this disingenuous interest in Baby Driver. You just kind of got this idea that he was interested in him just for his driving ability. And then out of nowhere, you get this sense that he actually does have, I guess, ultimately a soul.
Yeah.
And just like pulls out of nowhere with this self-sacrificing moment.
It's just all you need really when he sees, Baby and his lady friend, and it's like, oh, I used to be in love.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah, it really humanizes him there.
I love that about this film. I loved how you got a bit of a 3D look into the gangster world, and they're just kind of normal people that have gone down a path. I mean, it wasn't a big part of this. I don't think this it wasn't a big component of the film, but I just liked that complexity, the gray area, they weren't like the bad guys. They had complexity, they had other elements to them, and I think that was what was so appealing about this film.
It was certainly refreshing to see well-developed characters, in the sense that while you're right, Ben, it's still very relatively simple, but at the same time well-developed. I don't know if that even makes sense.
It's fine, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Nothing makes sense. It's a cruel world.
The one thing that I really enjoyed is Baby Driver's backstory in
Baby.
Yeah, sorry, it's not his actual name.
Mr. Driver.
Mr. Driver.
What are the odds?
No, his whole relationship with his foster father. What a way to humanize a character.
Yeah.
It almost seems too on the nose, be like, I'm taking care of my ailing older relative or something, but it's simple but effective. Yeah.
Any soundtrack highlights for you guys?
Man, there's just so many. Like, it's kind of a bit of a blur.
I think there's 30 songs on the official soundtrack, which is huge.
I mean, that's the thing. It was rapid fire. It wasn't. They weren't. The songs kept coming.
I had like just a literal punch the air moment when it was in one of the later action scenes when Hocus Pocus by Focus came on, which is one of my absolute favorite. No one's ever heard of, like, 70s rock songs. It was the one with the yodeling, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love that song, and that was like 5 minutes of the movie where I was just like, yeah, so good.
There was a lot of this film that I found myself just like grinning and almost dancing in the theater.
Yeah,
I mean,
same.
It happens so rare that I find myself kind of with a physical response to a film. I think one of the
just head bobbing,
or just literally leaning into my seat, like just looking at like I need more.
Yeah.
I remember doing that with, I think it was Senna, which is a weird movie to bring up in this context, but it was another one that just really kind of elicited a physical reaction for me. Like, I needed to get closer to that. I think I was leaning with the cars, going left and right. I was like,
4-wheeled vehicles, mate.
Yeah, I think the one that really stuck with me was the one when he was in the car singing. I can never remember names of songs or actors or movies. I'm really concerned about my memory. But yeah, that was a really good moment.
It's a hard film to really. I feel like we're kind of coming to the end here of wrapping things up, and there's a lot to talk about with this film, but I feel like it's a very experiential film.
Absolutely.
And you really just have to go and see it to get it, because about the editing and the music and the vibe.
Yeah, if you sit here and talk about the plot or the characters, there's only so far you're going to get.
Exactly.
But this is one you have to sit down in front of. And
I think part of it is that, and I've been kind of caught between this dichotomy the entire time, is that there's a simplicity to Edgar Wright's filmmaking that inspires complexity. And that's very difficult to talk about, and that's very different to explain without someone just, without someone that's seen it and goes like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't explain it, but I get you.
Yeah. I mean, let's just finish things up with the ending. And then also there's been reports this week that Sony are looking to do Baby Driver 2.
Shut up,
yeah,
Sony.
I saw that.
So, like, what do you think? I mean, this was an interesting ending. I really didn't know how this film was going to wrap up. I think that was such an intriguing part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, was he going to die? Was he going to go to prison? Was he going to hit the open road?
What's the thing with Edgar Wright? You never know. I mean, people die. Sometimes the world ends.
Yeah. I loved how they did this character reference thing, and you're like, oh yeah, he's a really nice guy, and then the reality of the justice system just comes bearing down. Be like, I don't give a shit.
25 years, yeah.
You're going to prison.
So, what do you guys think about the prospect of a second film? Is that warranted? Do you want to see the next chapter in Babies?
I kind of don't.
No, hell no. If Edgar Wright doesn't do it, there's no point, and I don't want Edgar Wright to do it. He should just keep doing different things.
Yeah. It doesn't have Kevin Spacey in it anymore. It doesn't like
the whole cast is gone.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I feel like, there's I'm always hesitant with sequels. I just think that there's inherent issues with trying to continue on a story like this that you haven't really planned out an arc for.
Baby Driver 2, Jon Bernthal's Revenge.
Yeah,
the Punisher versus Baby Driver.
Is it possible to do it and for it to be good? Yes.
Nope.
But I think it would be such a hit and miss thing, and I don't want Edgar Wright to risk that.
Yeah, I feel like it would be a tremendous task to try and beat this one. So it'd always just be a secondary version.
Just
let
a movie be good.
Yeah, that's it. Let a movie be good.
Yeah.
Sony.
Fox,
Can we also talk about like
DC.
this was Sony, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sony, in the space of 2 weeks, at least that we've seen it, have come out with 2 fucking hectic movies.
So we're going to shut the fuck up on Sony. Not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give them any credit for Spider-Man.
I've just been imagining.
I'm
not going to give them any credit for this.
Yeah, all they
Right.
did is funded Edgar Wright's genius.
Yeah.
But
Let
I mean,
him
like
do a
that's
thing.
what a studio does,
Yeah.
and a good studio allows the creative people to be creative and do what they need to do. So. Yeah, I've just been imagining the last week Ben having this massive internal struggle with his hate of Sony and also his love of these 2 films.
No struggle at all.
Okay, fine.
I think they were
Fuck
barely involved.
He looks pretty happy.
Like, I'd never even thought to give them credit for these movies.
But again, like that's why I say it's a good studio allows that creative process to happen.
Any studio that didn't just let Edgar Wright do whatever the hell he wanted, sorry Marvel, is just stupid.
Yeah,
you know what? I'm glad that he's left because we got an awesome Ant-Man. We got an awesome Baby Driver.
Oh yeah.
2 for 1 as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Well, I think that's it. Hit up Baby Driver. We all loved it. We'll be back with our Okja review later in the week. And we'll be back with our weekly movie show, The Weekly Movie Show. Yeah. This is fun.
Hey, yeah, it was a good time.
We should do it again.
Next week.
Yeah.
We should do this next week.
Thanks for having us, George.
No problem, guys. And enjoy camping. Thanks for the invite.
You had a choice. You could either come camping or you could have wedding photos with your fiance. You chose wrong.
Well,
Poor fool.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, it's been a pleasure. Condor.
Hello.
Beniz.
See ya.
See ya.